I was raised in a Baptist fundamentalist family, very Bible beaters by the book. And I came out of the Christian community in my mid-20s, I would say, when a relative became alcoholic. And the whole family was praying and praying and praying that this person would get better. And nothing got better. Everything got worse and worse and worse. And so I finally, I watched the movie The Invention of Lying with Ricky Gervais in it.
Yeah, very funny movie.
And I was like, it just made so much sense that someone had made the whole thing up and that no one's up there listening to us. And so I just sort of let it go, and it's been a much more peaceful existence ever since then.
So you were a fundamentalist Christian when you watched The Invention of Lying, and that got the ball rolling?
Well, it was, the relatives decline plus the movie all wrapped up together. And then, at the time of watching the movie, too, I sort of started Googling some of the things that I had been taught in church to see what the Bible actually says about them, because the type of church that we went to, you just show up on Sunday and you trust that everything that they tell you is in the Bible somewhere, but you don't actually go to search it yourself. But now with Google, you can
let's face it, the Bible is not a page turner.
No, it's really not. I think they printed on the thinnest paper possible for that reason, to discourage people actually reading it. But yeah, so then I found out that a lot of these lessons that I had learned weren't even in there to begin with. And so, the more I researched and the more I watched the movie, I was like, this is just made up. This is a bunch of crap, basically.
How long would you say you've considered yourself an atheist now?
Probably 8 years or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on making the transition.
Yeah.
And what possessed you to write a book about it? I
got into a support group as my relative was drinking, and so as I worked through the support group, they sort of demanded belief in a higher power, and that wasn't really working for me because I was an atheist. But I didn't know of any survivors of religious abuse support groups. So we're reading this book in the support group. It's not really helping me, so I thought, I don't see anything else out there that's going to help me. I might as well write my own. And so I started writing my own story in hopes that it reaches other people and inspires them to sort of leave the church, basically, and women in particular. I think women are tired of men telling us what to do. Even a lot of them joined religion because a man told them to do that, so they don't want another man telling them now to leave it, do this, do that, think this, think that. And so my book is more like, think for yourself, feel for yourself, and you'll arrive at the right conclusion.
Right. So the book is called Status Quon't. Cute. A woman's perspective on how Christianity was never about God. Do you mean that literally?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was never about God. For even for believers now, is it partially about God for people, or do you think people are intentionally misleading each other?
I think basically my book is about how I think Christianity began, and I think men wanted to control their women, or people who are different from them. Maybe it was straight men wanting to control homosexuals, or vice versa. I don't know. I wasn't there, obviously, but my theory is that fear is the most motivating force in all humans. If you want to inspire someone to do something, you make them afraid of a consequence. And so I think these men thought, okay, we have to inspire fear in women or homosexuals or children to control them. And so in order to do that, they came up with something even scarier than they are. So you can be scared of a man, but you can move away from him, and that extinguishes the threat. Whereas if you come up with this supernatural being that you can never get afraid of, it works like a charm because you can't get away from it. It's always watching you, even when your husband or your father or your mom is gone. And so it just worked as this tool for control. And then it became this sort of gaslighting thing where all these men got in on it, and they corroborated each other's stories and wrote this book and convinced everybody that was the truth.
Okay. So this is basically sort of a series of speculative essays, basically, on how Christianity could have gotten started. When you were in church, did you, what was your sense of the sincerity of belief of people who were actually, I gotta tell you where I'm coming from. I was raised as a secular Jew, and I never was deep into basically the churchy community.
Okay.
My impression of people who take religion seriously is that they take religion seriously, and they believe what they say they do, although when when religion tells them things that they want to hear, they're not exactly fighting to dispute things that they to not hear what they want to hear. Well, you were in church until your mid-20s. Did you feel like nobody really believed in God, or what?
No, I think plenty of people in that community actually do, and I think it's a way for a lot of people to cope with things that we don't have coping skills to deal with. So like if your very young mother is dying from cancer and you just can't wrap your brain around why that's happening, maybe it makes people feel better to think, oh, she's going beyond and I'll see her someday. So it's just, they don't have the coping skills to deal with it at that young age, and so they lean on religion for that reason, to help them get through it, I think. Yeah.
What about people who come to Christianity when they're older?
It might be the same type of thing, where they're going through something so challenging they need something else to hold on to, and they get into it that way. Or some people are just crazy. Like, I don't know. There's a variety of reasons that people can wind up in the church. I certainly don't think most people who are in the church took it as literally as my family did. I think it was so extreme and so painful for me to go through as a kid that also inspired me writing my own story. Like, I don't want what happened to me to happen to anybody else if I can prevent that. So.
Right. Can you give me an example of the kind of personal story that we'd find in this book?
Sure.
Like something specific that you went through while you were deep in the church stuff.
So, I mean, I went to church at my earliest memories, probably 4 or 5 years old, and I remember being 5 years old and we were told to pray the salvation prayer. And it's explained to me that you're going to die someday, and if you don't pray this prayer, then you're going to be burning in hell underneath all of us for eternity. And like, that's insanely scary for a 5-year-old to believe in. And so that was pretty traumatizing there. And then this is all in chapter 2 of my book. And then I talk about how that sort of led to all these weird tendencies of me like washing my hands and being afraid of public restrooms and stuff like that, because I was afraid to die because I thought maybe I'll go to hell. So, you're a kid and it's just traumatizing.
As a 5-year-old, did you feel any sense of odds about whether you'd wind up in hell or not? I mean, like, I feel like the nice story that the church tries to present is, look, God forgives people, you deserve this horrible torture, but you're not going to get it because of Jesus Christ, yada, yada, yada. Christians tell me that they find it comforting, and it must be scary as an atheist to have nothing. It sounds like you were, even having been raised in the church your whole life, legitimately scared of winding up in hell yourself.
It created anxiety. It had the reverse effect for me, and I think it has for my family, because at 5 years old, I would not have been thinking about, I'm going to die someday. What happens to me next? Like, there was no context for this discussion. It just came up because it came up in church that Sunday. It's not like we lost a family pet and then I was asking questions. It was all just forced on me. And so I think, like, as an atheist, if you think nothing happens when you die, that's not terrifying, because being barbecued for all eternity in a fiery inferno is much scarier than I'm going to be in the ground somewhere, at least for me, personally.
Right. So you told me that American Atheist was the first time you've been to an atheist convention. What has your experience been like of church community versus atheist community?
Well, they're very different. So I mean, in the fundamentalist Baptist community, there's no alcohol and there's no fun, really. So the convention was much more fun.
Right.
People were more welcoming, and
Did they tell any jokes?
No, not really. It's very serious. It's just much more comfortable, too.
I wasn't missing anything, I gotta say.
Yeah, and you can wear whatever you want to an atheist convention, but at church you gotta be all buttoned up. It's freezing cold in there. It's Sunday morning. Everybody's tired. It was just much more relaxed at the convention, I would say. More welcoming.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, glad you had a good time. I did too.